Can an argument be made that it's more enjoyable to be a fan of a good team fighting to be great than a great team with expectations to win every game? Now, Jesse brought a butter knife to the fight earlier in the newsroom and started making what he thought were great points on this, but I disagreed. Everyone would love to win a national championship. That's true. But there is a certain authenticity, a certain innocence, if you will, when a program is first starting that climb. Everyone remembers it. If you've ever made it to the top, and if you've ever gone on a run, even though, yeah, man, you'd love to win a title every year, people always look back fondly on the climb. It's the same way in life. You can watch people who have long since taken over sectors and industries, but what do they want to talk about? They don't want to talk about the latest million they made. They don't want to talk about the latest merger or acquisition. They want to talk about the climb. It's enjoyable. It's the most memorable aspect of the arc of achievement. Write that down if that doesn't exist as a term already. So in this world, what Todd was asking about is it more enjoyable? Well, that's all relative. So what do you enjoy the most? Because we talk about the consequences of success on this show a lot. And those are only reserved for the very elite few that win titles and they're at the very, very pinnacle of the sport. Those fans are not always enjoying everything. Now, you think that sounds dumb, because how could you not enjoy winning all the time? Well, that's just it. Winning is no longer good enough. This is not the NFL. This is college football. And in college football, when you're at the top of the game, you play, let's say you're Ohio State and you're playing Indiana this Saturday. It's not enough to beat them 31-29. You're favored by 23.5 points against them. You barely squeak by Indiana. I can tell you right now, those message boards, the rest of that evening and into next week are going to be insufferable. Like talk radio in Columbus the following Monday, old Zach Smith's podcast there, it will be insufferable because winning's no longer good enough. Now, does that sound enjoyable? Because I can tell you, if you're Indiana and you beat Purdue, let's say, it doesn't matter if it's 31-0 or 31-29. You guys are in heaven the rest of the evening. Why? Well, the expectation level's different, but guess who's having a more enjoyable Saturday night? Forget about the rest of the context. Just that moment in time. Who is enjoying themselves more? It's the team over here who's over under win total 7.5 games. It's not the national championship contender. So yeah, everyone wants to be in that position where you can win a title. But like I said, this is not the NFL. So the other part of the reality, this is what Jesse and I were talking about earlier, the other part of the reality is, this is harsh. I don't know if anyone's ever realized this before, but I'll be the one to break the bad news to you. There are some programs in Power 5 totally incapable of making the playoff. Gasp, I know, but it's true. So I'm going to pick a team, and it's Colorado. And this is no knock on Colorado. But if Colorado fans show up week 1 this fall with the same expectation level as Alabama fans, it makes no sense whatsoever. However, if Colorado fans come to the table and say, you know what would be great? If we made a bowl game, or if we got even above and beyond, if we got to 7 wins, like, can you imagine what January would feel like or what late December would feel like? Well, all of a sudden, you've got some wiggle room there. And you got some room for some Saturdays to not go your way, but it's not at the first sign of trouble, you just throw your hands up in the air and say, well, there goes this season. That's no way to go through life for a Colorado fan. Now, an Alabama fan, Terry and Trussville, Abner and Alabaster, it's a little bit different for them. But expectation and the calibration of expectation is so much more important because of the nature of this question. If you don't have your expectation levels properly calibrated, then you leave it up to other people to set your expectation. And if you're not careful, you'll listen to these people out here talking about the playoff being the center of the college football universe, and you'll think to yourself, well, my team's not in the playoff conversation. That means my team must be a failure, right? No. If Colorado's not in the playoff conversation, this September and October doesn't mean anything. Because Colorado has no business right now being in the playoff conversation. Calibrate those expectations, kids. And parents, make sure those kids have properly calibrated expectations.